She sees him in the hallways, Jacaerys, her dead son, walking toward her in the Red Keep as if nothing happened. She knows he is not there, and she follows him anyway. Rhaenyra Targaryen has been queen for less than a week. She has no money. The treasury is empty. Tywin Lannister apparently stole it before dying at the Gullet. She has no coronation. The High Septon refuses to anoint a woman he considers illegitimate. She has Aemond Targaryen alive somewhere with Vhagar, the largest dragon in the world, unaccounted for. She has Aegon II alive as a loose threat. She has nobles who supported her out of calculation rather than loyalty, and a city of small folk who are hungry and watching, and she is hallucinating her dead son in the corridors. This is what winning looks like in House of the Dragon. And Episode 3 is the most honest this show has ever been about what power actually costs. The episode opens outside King's Landing, and it is the only moment in the episode where the air feels clear. Daemon, flanked by Hugh Hammer and Ulf White on their dragons, meets Lord Ormond Hightower on an open plain. The Hightower army, one of the last significant green military forces in the field, is outnumbered, outdragoned, and Ormond knows it. Daemon delivers terms with the particular sneering relish he reserves for moments of complete dominance. Bend the knee, disband, return to Old Town, live. Ormond, described by reviewers as giving off the unmistakable energy of a gigantic tool, submits. His only genuine moment of humanity is handing over his young son as a hostage, a nervous, pale-haired tween who Ormond consigns to captivity with bluff, cheerful advice to be strong. Daemon brings the boy and the subdued Daeron Targaryen, Alicent's youngest son, captured as a royal hostage, back to the Red Keep. The moment Daemon enters the castle, the warmth of the scene goes with him. The Red Keep swallows everything. Rhaenyra's first shock as queen is the treasury. It is empty. Tywin Lannister, and presumed dead after the Gullet, apparently moved the gold before he died, and nobody left alive knows where it went. There is enough money to pay the soldiers for approximately 1 week. The coronation she was planning requires funds she does not have. The city around her is already hungry. Small folk eating rats, while the nobles who supported the Greens stockpile food. Daemon's response to this crisis is to suggest going out to plunder, which Rhaenyra dismisses correctly as the thought of a man who has never had to run anything. There is also a rat problem, a literal physical rat infestation in the Red Keep, which the episode uses with deliberate symbolic precision. Rhaenyra is being asked simultaneously about rats in the walls, candles in the wrong chambers, her bedchamber furniture, tribute requests for a coronation she cannot afford, and whether to kill her imprisoned half-brother Daeron. The mundane and the catastrophic arriving at the same time is the most honest portrayal of governance this show has produced. Rhaenyra needs the High Septon to officially crown her. Without a formal coronation recognized by the faith of the Seven, she is technically sitting a throne she has not been acknowledged to hold. The High Septon's position is clear and cold. Aegon's remains have not been produced, so as far as the faith is concerned, there is no confirmed vacancy. He also makes clear, between the formal objections, that the faith of the Seven has no particular love for dragons, blood magic, or, it is heavily implied, women in power. Rhaenyra responds by invoking her ancestors' prophetic dream, the Song of Ice and Fire, the threat from the north that Targaryens have known about for generations. The High Septon is unmoved. He essentially tells her that her family's dragons were born in darkness, and their magic is not the faith's concern. She leaves without the coronation. The High Septon's refusal is not just a political problem. It is a signal to every lord and small folk in King's Landing. The religious authority of the realm has not accepted Rhaenyra as queen, and in a medieval society, that gap between legal and divine legitimacy is a crack that enemies can widen. Rhaenyra cannot avoid Alicent, the woman who opened King's Landing's gates, who held the Greens together longer than they should have held, also ran the realm for years from within the Red Keep. She knows where the bodies are buried, literally and politically. Rhaenyra goes to her for advice on queenship and receives a piece of wisdom that is both genuinely useful and completely intolerable to hear. You'll do things you don't want to do. Rhaenyra hates this answer. She refuses to accept it as the terms of the job, and that refusal, that belief that she can rule differently, that she is somehow exempt from the brutal arithmetic that every ruler before her has had to perform, is the show very deliberately laying track. Rhaenyra also accuses Alicent of knowing where Aemond is and where the gold went. Alicent pushes back with real force. She did everything she was asked. She held the guards. She let Rhaenyra's dragons through. She is now a prisoner in her own home, being accused of conspiracies she did not commit. Their relationship, invented by the show, as we covered in our book versus show shorts, is doing its most interesting work in this episode. Two women who cannot trust each other and cannot function without each other. Here is the question episode 3 is actually asking, and I want you to sit with it personally before the recap continues. Rhaenyra spent 3 seasons arguing that she would be a different kind of ruler, more just, more considered, more human than the system that denied her the throne. And in episode 3, she is doing things that complicate that promise. She is keeping Alicent and Rhaenyra as prisoners despite promising to treat them with kindness. She accuses Alicent of treachery she has no evidence for. She hallucinates her dead son and makes decisions from inside that grief. She refuses the advice, "You will do things you don't want to do." That is probably the truest thing anyone says to her all episode. Have you ever wanted something so badly that actually getting it forced you to become something you didn't want to be to keep it? Because that is what the show is building toward, not a villain. Something more interesting. A woman who was right about her claim, who was right about the injustice, who fought the right fight, and who is now discovering that the throne doesn't care about any of that. Comment breaking. If you think Rhaenyra is starting to fracture under the pressure. Comment becoming if you think she is simply learning what ruling actually requires, because those are 2 very different stories, and only one of them ends with her on the throne. Rhaenyra knights her 3 dragon seeds, Ulf White, Hugh Hammer, and Adam of Hull. She gives them the title, she gives them the honor. And when Corlys Velaryon, the sea snake, her most important military ally, the man who blockaded King's Landing on her behalf, formally asks her to recognize Adam and Alan as his sons, she refuses. She knights Adam as Adam of Hull, not Adam Velaryon. Corlys explodes at her in front of the court, publicly furiously, the kind of confrontation that damages both parties, regardless of who is technically right. The political logic of Rhaenyra's refusal is understandable. Acknowledging bastards as legitimate opens questions she does not want opened. The human cost is a public humiliation of the man who sacrificed his fleet for her. And Corlys Velaryon, publicly humiliated, is a loyalty that has been bent rather than held. That crack in between the Queen's political calculation and her allies' human dignity is the kind of crack this show knows how to widen. With the treasury empty and the nobles who supported the Greens sitting on stockpiles of food while the city starves, Rhaenyra hatches a plan. She holds a formal banquet. She invites every lord and lady of high society who has been hoarding. She seats them at a beautiful table. She is gracious. She is warm. She makes them feel welcome and seen and grateful they supported the winning side. And then she serves them rats. Grilled, on silver platters, every single plate. The rats are what the small folk were eating while these lords hoarded grain. This is Rhaenyra's message delivered without a word of explanation. You sat in your towers eating while the city starved, and tonight you eat what they ate. The room's silence when the plates arrive is the best scene in the episode. Some reviewers have called it the moment that makes clear Rhaenyra's future as queen is going to be either very short or very dark. Because a ruler who makes her allies feel humiliated, even when the humiliation is deserved, is a ruler who is spending political capital she does not have. The episode's most important structural beat happens quietly. Almost as an aside, Aemon Targaryen has not been seen since he destroyed the people of Harrenhal. Vhagar is unaccounted for. Nobody in King's Landing knows where they are. Rhaenyra's advisors treat this as an open question. It is not an open question. Aemon on Vhagar is the single greatest remaining military threat to Rhaenyra's rule. The largest dragon alive, ridden by the finest fighter on the green side, is somewhere in the realm with no known location and no known intention. Every political problem Rhaenyra is solving this episode, the empty treasury, the high septon, the nobles' corlies, all of it exists in the shadow of that unanswered question. And the show knows it. The episode ends not with resolution, but with Rhaenyra in Demon's bed, not romantic, just the only warmth left. While somewhere out there, Vhagar's wings are carrying Aemon towards something the episode has not yet shown us. Episode 3 is the best episode of Season 3 so far. Not because it has the biggest moments, but because it has the most honest ones. The Rat Banquet, the High Septon's refusal, Corlys's fury, Rhaenyra following a ghost in the corridor. These are not the scenes of a victorious queen consolidating power. These are the scenes of a woman discovering that the throne she fought her entire life for is a machine. And the machine does not care who is sitting in it, only that someone is, feeding it the things it needs to run. Comment breaking if you think Rhaenyra is beginning to fracture. Comment becoming if you think she is learning what ruling costs and will be stronger for it. Because one of those ends with her losing the throne, and one might end with her losing herself to keep it. If you want to go deeper on the book differences behind this episode, our book versus show series is linked above. And next week, based on what we know is coming, the show is about to answer the question of what happens when Aemon and Vhagar stop being a question mark. Subscribe to Powerlines and hit the bell so you don't miss that breakdown the moment it airs.